Ladies and gentlemen, federal employees, it is so good to be with you today. My name is Dallen, Haws, and welcome back to yet another episode of this podcast, this YouTube channel. It is great to have you here today. And today, we're talking about a subject that is so critical, and that is your TSP and how you can or potentially should be investing your money in retirement. Because we all know that as you approach retirement, it becomes a little more emotional, right? Because when you're 20-something, 30-something, well, you know you've got years, you got decades before you need the money. But as you approach, hey, that starts getting a little tougher to stomach, to handle when you see the market be a little volatile, right? If you know that you're going to be retiring here soon, it's a little harder not to go to the G fund when the market quivers. When things start dropping and you see your account balance that you've worked so hard to build, that you've worked so hard to grow, when you see it drop, it's hard. It's hard. And it's just a matter of managing that emotional distress, right? In a way that you make good decisions. Because I've talked with lots and lots of people that made poor decisions approaching retirement, and that will affect them for the rest of their life in a negative way. Right? You don't want that to happen. You don't want that to happen. So, hopefully today, I can walk you through a framework so that you can make better investment decisions in your TSP today. So, the strategy I'm going to talk about is, I call it the bucket strategy, where you basically give a title to different buckets of money for different time frames in your retirement. And by doing so, you give yourself a strategy so no matter what the market's doing, that you don't have to be scared, right? That's what it's all about. And whenever you're looking for a strategy to use, especially when it comes to retirement investing, there's two primary goals that I believe it should have, the strategy. The first is, hey, you want your short-term money that you need in retirement, you want it to be there, right? You want it to be safe. You don't want the money you're going to need tomorrow to be bouncing up and down in the stock market. You don't want that, right? Now, that's on one side of the spectrum. On the other side, you want your money to last. You want your money to last and provide as much income as possible over the course of your retirement. Because we know that while we do want our TSP to be as big as possible the day you retire, probably the bigger goal is, hey, I want my money just to be big at retirement, yes, but I also want it to last as long as possible and be as large as possible throughout my entire retirement. So even on the day you retire, retirement can be a long time. You still need a long-term strategy for growth, right? So those are the couple things to think about when picking a strategy on how to invest your money in retirement, okay? So the bucket strategy. The first bucket, and there's 3 buckets total, but the first bucket I call the cash bucket. And this bucket, it's got 2 to 3 years worth of income that you need in retirement from your investment, right? From your TSP, wherever your money's at, okay? And a good kind of investment type that works pretty well in this bucket is, of course, you can do cash, but you can do something like the G fund that will grow some. It'll pay off some interest, but it's not going to bounce around. It's not going to be volatile, and the money you need in the short term is going to be locked away in that account so that it's there for you when you need it. It's not going to bounce around like the stock market, okay? So potentially the G fund or something similar, an equivalent in that bucket. And again, that's 2 to 3 years worth of income that you need. Again, that's only the income you need above and beyond your pension and Social Security and your other income. For example, let's say you've got $5,000 worth of fixed income from your pension and Social Security. If you need $10,000 a month to live, then you only need $5,000 a month from your TSP, right? So you only need, of course, that much tied away in the 2 to 3 years of this bucket system. You don't need your total expenses tied up in these accounts, just what you need from your investments, okay? So that is the first bucket. That is the cash bucket. The second bucket is, I just call the midterm bucket, where the next 2 to 3 years, after the first 2 to 3, the next 2 to 3 years, look at how much income you're going to need from your investments. And you take that amount of money and you put it in the midterm bucket. And this bucket, you have a little more time before you need the money a little bit. So you want a little more growth, but not too much, because you don't want the volatility that comes with growth, okay? So maybe some G fund and some F fund, some bond-based funds that will grow some, but they're still not going to bounce around like a stock market would, a stock market-based fund. They're going to be relatively stable for you so that you have the little growth that you need, but also the stability you need in the short term. So now that you have the first two buckets taken care of, you've got about 5 years worth of money tied up in these safe investments that really are not going to bounce around very much, right? And so what that allows you to do, you say, hey, I've got 5 years worth of income. Even if the stock market just plummets on the day you retire, you've got 5 years to wait it out because you've got 5 years worth of income. That's a great freedom mentality that you can have using this strategy. Now, the last bucket, the long-term bucket, is for anything you don't need within the first 5 or 6 years, right? So all that money can be invested in stock-based funds, things that will grow more over time, and it's going to be more volatile. It will, but over time it'll grow, and it'll provide the growth to beat inflation and maintain your standard of living over the course of your retirement, right? And this bucket you can invest in things like the C fund, the S fund, the I fund, things that are going to grow more over time. But of course, like I said, they're going to come with more volatility. So those are the three buckets. And those three buckets allow for the two main goals that I talked about. First, the short-term money that you need, it's locked up. It's ready to go so that regardless what the market's going to do, you've got that money. Because you need it in the short term, right? Because we don't know what the market's going to do in the short term. We have no idea, right? No one does. But also, it also provides for your long-term needs as well. Because retirement can be a long time, and you need and want your money to last you and provide as much income as possible. So, the problem though, however, comes into play when people don't have enough in savings, where they try to use this strategy, but because they need so much in the early parts of retirement, it really depletes their retirement and their TSP just doesn't last very long, right? In that case, you need to save more, right? Depending, or at least lower your expenses in retirement, right? The first question, before we talk about investing in retirement, is to know how much you need to have saved up for retirement. And that is a topic for another video. This video is all, already getting pretty long. But that's the first question to ask. But hey, do I have enough saved up for retirement? And if you do, start structuring out this bucket strategy to have an idea of where money should be invested in retirement. Because again, 100% G fund is rarely the best way to go. Inflation's going to eat away, you're not going to get any growth, and over 20, 30 years, that makes a massive difference. You need a strategy that you can execute on consistently for your entire retirement. And again, there's other strategies out there. The bucket strategy is not the only strategy out there, but it is a good one. It is one that works, and that is relatively simple, right? So do your research, find something that makes sense to you, that you're confident in, and that you can consistently execute on for the rest of your life. Because that's the goal, right? To have money for the rest of your life and live a life that you want, right? That's the goal for all of us. So I hope that was helpful. Have an incredible rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.